Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics and Right. I'm Egberto Willis, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you today. In the house so far is Paul Fleming Sr. from Atlanta, Georgia, E2247 from all across America. We also have Michael Rutnan from the great state of New York, specifically Brooklyn, New York, in the house with us as well. We have AVQ. Let's see. I thought I saw somebody that I missed, but evidently I did not quite miss them. Anyhow, how are my peeps doing? I trust everybody is doing fine. We're going to have a great show for you today. I'm still setting things up as we go because, as you know, how things are, you think you have it all ready and it's not ready and it's not ready, but you have got to get it done. And I'm about to get one of my last pieces done, and just maybe I will get it done. But anyhow, let's see. Let's see. I'm coming to you guys from Kingwood, Texas. Uh, I'm not sure yet, but Thursday afternoon, I may have a special interview with a foreign government, and I may have to run a tape version of the show Thursday, maybe. I'm not sure yet. They're still setting it up for me, and I think you guys are. If it works out, I think you guys are going to like this. But anyhow, I can't say much right now. I'm sort of under, you know, what do you call it when you can't say something? You know what I'm talking about. Anyway, let's see. Break in. While President Biden has fought to pass tough border security legislation as well as funding to Ukraine, Mike Johnson has let the Republicans go on vacation. All the while, the government is facing potential shutdown. Don't tell me the two parties are the same. I mean, I thought it was funny the optics that shows that you're on vacation, not minding the people's business, But I tell you, there's one thing that I have to tell folks, all right? And that is the people from MAGA don't care. And this is what I was explaining to a friend today who gets on the case. Stop talking about Trump and, let people know how Trump is specifically. And I'm like, most of the people who follow Trump know that he's a crook. They know that he's not worth the paper that they know that he's unworthy. Most of these people just want to stick it to the system. And you have to understand that when you have a group that just want to burn stuff down, that's not who you want to get. So I am not trying to reach the indoctrinated MAGA that are sick. I'll still hug them, I'll still talk to them, I'll still protect them, but I'm not trying to change their minds because they are mentally ill. And I don't think I'm qualified for the type of mental illness that they have. And I mean this sincerely from the depths of my heart. Uh, uh, Jimmy Kimmel did a test, and he went outside and he said to a MAGA woman, he said, Biden wanted to put bleach into people's blood, and they wanted to use light to do things. What do you think about that? And a woman says something like, "That's a sick old man." Da 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 da. And he said, "Oh, I'm sorry. The person who said that was Donald Trump." And then she says, "Well, maybe if there is something that he knows about." I mean, it showed a level of sycophancy. It showed a level of dementedness that I think proves just about right away that there is nothing you can say to folks like that. Roland, what's his name? Roland Martin brought on this brother from, I don't know where he's from, and he started asking questions, and it was clear that the brother was completely and entirely delusional, completely delusional. I mean, he lived in another state of reality. And, I said immediately, that is somebody you can't talk to, that we can't reach. They need psychological help. They're at the point, when people get into a cult, deprogramming the cult requires a certain amount of skill set. because their minds have been altered. And we have quite a few of those here as well, where the mind is actually altered, that it doesn't matter how many facts you bring to fruition, that they will not move off the cultishness, the cult leader, etc. We are not talking to those people. I mean, when those people bring up certain things, because other people can be influenced by them, we correct what they're saying in real time without the expectation of changing those particular people's minds. Because when I tell you it's a mental illness, it's not a question, it's a statement of fact. So understand that, and if you can deal with people understanding that MAGA, a large percentage of MAGA are mentally ill, then we can actually come to peace, because you cannot hate or harm a mentally ill person, but you can empathize and to some extent sympathize with that mentally ill person. All right, let's continue. Michael Rudden says, Paul, there are a small number of Republicans in deep red districts who will push for a government shutdown if they don't get whatever nonsense they want, not realizing that such efforts will harm their party, as Republicans in whole will blamed for any temporary shutdown. But not only that, it'll hurt their own well-being as well, you know? So I find it ironic that folks think like that. Anyway, Bridge MCP is in the house. Hi, Bridge. Welcome to see you here. And Lee Grant just made it to the house as well. Paul Fleming says Trump was humiliated again in South Carolina. The media are doing damage control for him by treating his pathetic primary performance as big wins. And there's a piece that I want to play. I don't think I played this yesterday, did I? I don't think. Let me see if this is what I played yesterday. When you say, Paul Fleming, that he's embarrassed, even Fox News understand that the guy's a fraud and that he makes no sense. And to think that some people are still gonna try to make this guy a president. Again, they made a mistake already, but check this out. Imagine if Fox News had shown just a modicum of journalistic integrity, if they had done what you're going to hear them do here during the 2016 election and during the 2020 election, we wouldn't be looking at the possibility of having this charlatan potentially being president of the United States again. Listen to this, and then we'll take it on the other side.
We're continuing monitoring the president's remarks, and I mean no offense to him, or some of you might want to continue hearing, but I did have to say that even though the former president is entitled to his opinions, he's not entitled to his own set of facts. The market has indeed been going up, but having nothing to do with him and everything to do with this aggressive cut in interest rates, or just a hiking in interest rates and stabilized inflation. And of course, the whole artificial intelligence phenomenon that has benefited NVIDIA and a host of companies that are making money hand over fist. So that, whether you want to give Biden credit for that, has nothing to do with Donald Trump. Furthermore, he mentioned about gas prices out of whack, $6 a gallon. The national average right now is $3.26 cents a gallon. He went on to talk about the 2020 election and how that was rigged. This has been adjudicated many, many times, dozens of times. It's been investigated by everyone and his uncle. No fewer than 44 investigations launched, some of them by judges that were picked by Donald Trump himself, that found no evidence of that in the 7 battleground states where most of them were focused. Donald Trump lost each and every one of those states. And no facts or no history that he mentions on the stump right now will change that.
It is funny because Neil Cavuto, the first thing he does is give a quasi apology to Donald Trump. I don't mean any offense, Donald, but everything that you said is a lie. And let me explain what all the lies are. No, gasoline is not $6 or something cents a gallon. No, the market isn't going up because of you. No, the Biden economy is really doing just fine. I mean, and he goes point after point to point out that Donald Trump is nothing more than a fraud, a blowhard, and just talking. Now, in effect, they're saying you can't believe the word of this person who purportedly wants to be president of the United States. So why in the you know what are they even giving him the time on the network? Their network has become the conduit. And let's not just look at Donald Trump. I mean, at Fox News, because every network has used Donald Trump to make a lot of money because they know the people look at it as a big, big sideshow. We need to get away from sensationalism. We need to get away from all this junk that is sort of just entertainment and realize we really have a country with problems. And having a charlatan like former President Trump, number 45, having a charlatan is a clear and present danger to all of us. I repeat, having him even participating in an election is a clear and present danger. We hope that Americans, from the time he goes to court, realizes that he's nothing but a fraud and act accordingly. Act accordingly. Act accordingly. Act accordingly. Anyhow, folks, it's very important that we do what again? Act accordingly. Anyway, folks, so let me get back to the chat. Paul Fleming says, I have purchased my first EV and will pick it up on Thursday. What kind did you get, Paul? And if you don't mind me asking, because when Linda's car go out, I want to buy one, but I have to buy an expensive one. How much? Give me the range that you got and what kind that you got. Also, tell me what how you think about it. I will be looking for other people's experiences before I take the dip. Rudnit says, who's being interviewed specifically so we can prep some question? It's a Latin American country that we are not very friendly with. And so again, they're trying to set it up right now as we speak. So we'll see how that works out. But I really can't give the name right now because again, security issues, all that good stuff. But we'll talk about it later, I promise. Michael Rodin says, "Oh, Egberto, name the country organization." I just named the kind of a little bit. All right. Also, Rodin says, "TGF, too far gone." Yeah, I think that's how you could say too far gone. Trump is cash poor. I think Trump is poor altogether. Yes, he has all these assets, but remember, if what you are is an asset king, you have a lot of assets, right? And if you were basing your business model of having all these assets inflated and then buying additional properties with the collateral from these inflated properties, as it turns out, you have a lot of properties in your name, but you don't own a damn thing. Because again, if you were to liquidate everything, all you'd have left is the money to pay back the bank, right? That's all you got. That's all you got. So I think people need to reevaluate the economics of Trump because I don't even believe Trump is a billionaire, and I don't even think he was ever a billionaire actually. But anyhow, all right. Michael says, I mean, light treatment might be useful for some diseases, but not COVID. And using disinfectant internally is just insane. Well, you can't put bleach in your veins, in any large amount because it'll fry all your cells. It'll kill you. It'll poison you. When Trump said that, Dr. Birx should have stood up and said something. You effing moron. You try to kill people. Would have done. I don't think he could say that. But he says, saw a video of a MAGA rally where they were asked that what the Civil War was. 1 out of 100 said slavery. Oh, I'm surprised you got one to say that. Paul Fleming says, two primaries, two very different takes. When Biden was South Carolina by 96%, the New York Times said it was an uncertain measure of wider enthusiasm for him. But when Trump won by a far lower margin, 60%, the New York Times called it a crushing blow that had him barreling toward the nomination. See the problem? I am glad that you said that. You know what I want you to do for me, Paul? If you can get to the two headlines, the link to the two headlines, so that I don't have to go search deeply. I would love for you to go ahead and tell me those two links, because what happens there is that if I can get those two links, I can actually write a story. I have several stories that I still have to write about, specifically one for Bridge MCP and some stuff she got from the not IRS, from the Social Security stuff. That's still on my list of things to do. But I want to keep that bucket for when things lighten up for me to do these alternative type stories. So if you can find those links for me so I don't have to go searching, that would be a good thing. Remember, this program belongs to all of you, and all of you actually participate quite well in the program with it. I'm sending the show to a company in Canada. This is a live show now that just asked me for some information. All right, let's continue here. What we got? Breach. Paul says, I got that one. Lee Grant says, here's some wokeness for you. Harvard professor forced into police protection after releasing his study on racial bias in police shooting. When the truth doesn't fit the narrative, the truth gets shoved aside. You know, there is some truth to that. There is some truth to that. And it goes both ways. When you watch your local TV, you don't see a lot. You don't see a lot of crime by white people shooting up anything. But when you go to court, right, you see a lot of white people that have used their gun, killed or shoot somebody. You know, I can attest to that from a friend with personal experience when he had to go to the alternative court. That is, and I had a caller who called into my show yesterday, I think it was, and he said, or 2 days ago, and he said, how comes we don't know the identity? How comes we don't know the identity of the guys who shot up the crowd in Missouri? Well, is there some truth to that? It maybe was not a white person who did the shoot 'em up in Missouri, and because of that, it didn't quite. You know, they weren't in a hurry to release the statement. That could be it, or it could be that they're both minors, and I don't know. But I think there is some truth in the bias in the way crime, and specifically shooting crime, are reported. But I don't think it's in the direction that Mr. Grant would like to put it in. When you watch TV, crime looks a lot browner than crime really is. I give the examples about living here in Kingwood. There's a lot of crime that happens here in Kingwood, but it doesn't get reported. And because it doesn't get reported, it doesn't make the statistics. I hope you get it. I hope you guys understand it. All right, continuing. Let's see. Paul Fleming says, wait a minute, so you want Fannie Willis removed for having consensual sex, all while you're supporting a rapist. Got it. It could not have been placed or put more succinctly than that. No, she won't be removed. And if she got removed, it would be a travesty. It would be a travesty. You know, a lot of these relationships, you know how it goes. All right, let's see. Paul Plymouth, the Senate Judiciary Committee has yet to subpoena Harlan Crow or Leonard Leo more than 2 months after authorizing subpoenas for two key figures in the Supreme Court ethics crisis. Senate Democrats have yet to issue them. Paul says he got a Tesla with the $7,500 credit. It gets 303 miles a charge. Wow, that is great. That is great. I think the credit is done for this year, right? Anyway, Egberta doesn't want to specify. Okay, no questions from the peanut gallery. I can't get questions from the peanut gallery on this one. I'm so sorry, Rednan, but when the person approached me about interviewing, I can say it's a her, they said that I had to be very quiet. I said, can I just at least say that I'm interviewing? And they said, okay, but don't give an indication as to the person. So that's how it went. Michael then says, Lee Grant, that study was discredited by Harvard's peer review. Be sure you keep believing nonsense. Oh, wow. I love my research department. It's called Michael Rudnin and Bridge MCP. Great research department. Huh. That's great. Let's see. How the South won the Civil War, oligarchy, democracy, continuing flight for the soul of America. Heather Cox Richardson. Eric K says, This is what you should be advocating, as flooding knows no bound of race or origin or status. We have local government that don't protect crap. Well, actually, we were to build a great canal under I-10 to move water out of Houston into the ship channel. We didn't. I can give you stories about that, but read my blog on that. All right, Michael Randes says, what's the largest predictor of violent crime? Hint to all the racists out there, it's not race. The leading predictor of violent crime is poverty. Desperate people being forced into desperate action. And that could not be more true. That could not be more true. All right, Paul Fleming, illegal immigrant aiding Elon Musk was an illegal immigrant, according to his own brother. This just rediscovered clips is from a 2013 joint interview with Elon Musk and Kimball Musk at the Milken Institute think tank. All right, send the link. Eric Hayes, why does it take a year to report the girl mass shooter? I don't know. But I imagine, do you know? All right, Paul Fleming says, my quotes were from New York Times the day after the contest. The day after each contest, or they did it all together? You mean it? Well, actually, let me think for a second. Because there were two different contests. South Carolina had on two different days. They had different elections. The Democratic South Carolina primary was not the same as the Republican South Carolina primary. 2 different days. All right, we have another video for you. This one here is the proof that the GOP are anti-democratic. Check this out, and we'll take it on the other side. If you thought that the right wing wasn't serious about no longer seeing the benefit of democracy, of course we know why, but we'll discuss that after. I want you to listen to this little piece at CPAC, and then we'll talk about it later.
The lines of Maya Angelou, who said, when people show you who they are, believe them.
Well, listen, I mean, the one thing we learned from the first term is that he tested all the constraints of democracy and pushed them to their limits. And if he were to have a second term without the prospect of being reelected, just imagine what he'd do. Listen, he and his supporters are saying the quiet part out loud. A featured speaker at CPAC just yesterday said, this is the end. We're working for the end of democracy. And so believe them when they say it, that they are looking forward to an administration that punishes its opponents, just like they do in autocratic societies. So I think people should be very much afraid. They should be very much concerned. And, you know, when we talked about democracy has been under threat since January 6th or before, but now we know just how much. And now we know how real, because they are saying it out loud at the CPAC conference.
Yeah, I actually want to play what you just referenced, which is a moment from CPAC. This is a Trump supporter and a conspiracy theorist named Jack Posobiec.
Welcome to the end of democracy. We're here to overthrow it completely. We didn't get all the way there on January 6th, but we will endeavor to get rid of it and replace it with this right here. We'll replace it with this right here.
Amen.
That's right, because all glory is not to government, all glory to God.
So, Vaughn, a lot of people probably don't know who this guy is, but does that mean we shouldn't pay attention?
Absolutely should pay attention. Jack Posobiec is a name who has risen in popularity on the far right, or you could say also the mainstream of republicanism here today. He is a voice that has been legitimized by allies of Donald Trump. But just this last December, he was even lauded during a speech in December in New York by Donald Trump himself, suggesting somebody like Jack Posobiec, who has his own podcast that is simulcast on Real America's Voices, which is the same television outlet that Steve Bannon's War Room plays on. He suggested that Jack Posobiec should be somebody that gets a Pulitzer, not places like the New York Times or the Washington Post. Jack Posobiec first rose to popularity back in 2017. He was on the front lines of promoting the Pizzagate conspiracy, that Hillary Clinton and Democrats were part of a pedophilia cabal that was hiding children in the basement of a D.C. pizza restaurant. Jack Posobiec, though, has only seen his reach broaden. He's got 2.4 million followers on X. Jack Posobiec is the editor of the apologies, it's losing me here at the top of my mind here, Chris. But for Donald Trump, this is somebody here who has continued to have a large following that is spread. And so for this sort of messaging, seeing him on stage there at CPAC, it's notable. It was not just on Wednesday, but he was also at the forefront just earlier today here, Chris.
Now think about what he just said. It's not about democracy. It's about, oh Lord, what God tells us. What you guys believe is democratic or whatever, it doesn't matter. It's what we say God told us to do. Think about that, folks. When we talk about this other side living in a fantasy land, living in an alternate state of reality, that's what we're talking about. And you know, the thing about it is these guys know exactly what they're doing. The difference between these guys and past insurrectionists or past fascists is these guys tell you the truth up front on the screen. To which we always say, believe this crap when they're telling you things. Believe them. They mean it.
We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead. Number 1, subscribe to our channel. And number 2, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.
Absolutely join us, folks. Absolutely join us. Anyway, welcome aboard, mi panameño favorito, my brother from another mother in Panama, Centroamérica, Alejandro Rose. Welcome aboard, my brother. Lee Grant says, well, before I get to Lee Grant, Michael said Trump in a second term would surround himself with yes men, removing all the adults from the room, and Trump would act as a dictator. Day one would be every day. The problem being that Trump supporters think Trump would only go after their enemies and never turn his ire on them, as if the pattern of autocrats has never gone that way. The truth of the matter is Trump will go against anybody that's in his way, and that person becomes the enemy. And anybody who doesn't understand that, get it. When I tell you that MAGA is a mental illness, I think that is what we need. Why don't somebody come up with there's MAGA, right? MAGA. We know it means Make America Great Again. We know America was never great. It's Make America what it says it wants, what it should be. But what I'd like you to do, somebody come up with something ingenious. MAGA as a mental illness. But so use those 4 letters. MAGA, put mental in there and finish it up with the AGA but make it make sense. Make it make sense because we need to understand that MAGA, when we analyze the thought process of somebody that really is a MAGA cultist. I'm not talking about the person that just votes for Donald Trump because they think they're going to be financially successful, but there's a person that is that cultish behavior. It is a mental illness, and we must try to do whatever we can. We're not going to eradicate it. We, the average American citizen, is not going to eradicate that. But what we can do is understand that. All right. Lost my mouse here. Keep losing my mouse. Come on, mouse. Where are you? Let's get back in business. There we go. All right. Continuing, we have Mike Cisak that says, first Grant says, Rudnins, that's amazing. Because when America was at its poorest, in the thrust of the Great Depression, there was no great increase in crime. And that you just got it. You don't get a great increase in crime. Everybody poor. And that's just how it is. And not only that, the times were, many of it was rural. You didn't have the cities and the conditions that they were in today. So things were quite a bit different then. But every study, and not only every study, what I see, I didn't need a study to tell me this. is you can look at the socioeconomic nature of crime, and you can't hide from that. Let's see what else we have here. British MCP said the following. Lee, during the Great Depression, with much of the United States marred in grinding poverty and unemployment, some Americans found increased opportunities in criminal activities like bootlegging, robbing banks, loan sharking, even murder. According to the FBI, Chicago alone had an estimated 1,300 gangs by mid 1920s, a situation that led to turf wars and other violent activities between rival gangs. Prohibition was unpopular with the public, and bootleggers became heroes to many for supplying illegal alcohol during hard times. In hit movies like Little Caesar and The Public Enemy, both released in 31, Hollywood depicted gangsters as champions of individualism and self-made men surviving in tough economic times. Though the country's most famous real-life gangster, Al Capone, was locked up for tax evasion in 31 and spent the rest of the decade in federal prison. So I think Bridge MCP just points out that actually the crime rate relative to those times went up as well. Good catch, Bridge. Look, the PDR Posse's research department is second to none. All right? The PDR Posse research department is second to none. And that's why you need to be a part of the PDR Posse. So just click that join button in your window and become a part of the PDR Posse. All right. Let's continue. What time is it? 3:36. We have here Michael, that link. Let's see. Eric Hayes says mental illness is now in Washington. It's there too? Yeah. All right, time to go shopping before the rain comes. See you tomorrow. All right, Michael. I think we are getting the cold front tomorrow. I think we get it before you guys, but I'm not sure. My CSEC says, let's stop pretending peer review works. Why should we not know that peer review generally works? When you have more eyes on something, actually pretty good. All right, we have Eric Hayes who says we don't have depression times or we yet, but I don't know what you're saying there. Eric Hayes says 100K dead due to PDR policy on fentanyl. No. 100,000 people dead of fentanyl because they chose to buy illegally a drug they should not ingest. Now, as a compassionate society, we should try to help them eradicate their illnesses, and we should treat it as an illness. But in a capitalist society where supply and demand reigns and where humanity is not all that important to the capitalists, this is what you get. Fentanyl wasn't made by anybody else other than our plutocrats, okay? And our plutocrats kill. They don't only do it with fentanyl. They do it with ALR and apples. They do it with the kind of pesticides they use on your food. They do it with the injection wells where they put dirty water right back into the ground, which permeates the water table, and eventually you drink it and get cancer, and nobody sees it because nobody's looking for it. Tomorrow, I'm going to have the Railroad Commission, the guy that's running for the Railroad Commission in Texas. He will be on at 6 in the morning on my KPFT show live, so you can watch him here. His name is Bill Burr. I mean, oh my God, what's wrong? Birch is Mr. Birch will be on with us on tomorrow morning at 6 o'clock. That's when he'll be on tomorrow morning at 6 o'clock. So you want to check that out because it should be fun. He's a very smart guy as well. Some IVF clinics in Alabama have stopped seeing patients after a radical court ruling. Yep, we knew that. We moved that. One pill kills that program. I don't know what you're saying there, Eric. You have to kind of be more complete. All right, let's continue here now. Another video to show you, and this is the one on how we need to. California Governor Gavin Newsom shows exactly how we are supposed to deal with the IVF issue, right? In other words, it shows you how Democrats need to campaign in 2024. And they better do it. They better take the cues from this guy because he's sharp and he knows what's going on. Check this out. Gavin Newsom is a great spokesperson for the Biden administration. And I want you to listen to how he ties in IVF as well as the abortion issue to really tag not only Donald Trump, but the right. Very important. Check this out, and then we'll take it on the other side.
Where a bill has been proposed that would punish adults assisting minors seeking out-of-state abortions.
Doctor, statement, please.
Help!
Trump Republicans want to criminalize young women who travel to receive the reproductive care they need. Don't let them hold Tennessee women hostage.
I began by asking Newsom what President Biden should do to respond to the Alabama ruling.
He's speaking with clarity, moral clarity, forcefully. The vice president speaking with moral clarity, forcefully all across this country. We've defined the lines of this debate. We've been on the offense, not on the defense. The Republican Party is on the defense on this issue. You saw that with the flip-flops of Haley. You see that in terms of Trump, though he's still trying to figure out exactly his position because he's out there celebrating the fact he created these conditions in the first place. But here's the point I want to make, and that's what this ad's about. The conditions are much more pernicious than they even appear. These guys are not just restricting the right's self-determination to bear a child for a young woman, but they're also determining their fate as it relates to their future in life by saying they can't even travel. These travel restrictions modeled after a version that passed in Idaho is now being proposed in Tennessee, in Oklahoma, in Mississippi. The AG himself of Alabama wants to criminalize travel, not just for children, but for adults seeking reproductive care. That's how serious this moment is, and we need to be even more aggressive, I would argue, and that's what this ad represents.
Given the seriousness of this moment that you have just laid out, going back to the question, is there a unilateral and executive action that you think President Biden should be taking to deal with the IVF piece of this, and then, as you say, the abortion travel ban piece
there's no daylight in their efforts and the work they're doing, and they are investigating exactly where their position can land in terms of the laws itself. But at the end of the day, this is a serious threat, not just what's happening in Alabama, regardless of what Trump tweets out saying the legislature in Alabama should do something about this. I worry about the United States Supreme Court that, again, set the tone and tenor for the debate we're having today. And again, it's not just a war on travel. It's not just a war on reproductive health care. It's also a war on women more broadly defined, including, as we know, contraceptives.
You talk about the Republican position on this. NBC News has confirmed that the GOP frontrunner, Donald Trump, has told people privately that he is considering supporting a 16-week federal ban that would include exceptions.
Yeah.
You've been clear, and here again today, your support for
generous of them to include exceptions. What a kind soul. In 16 weeks, it's because it's an even number.
Well,
these people aren't serious. So he supports. This is what he said. He supports a national ban. And if you're Lindsey Graham and others, they're going to bring that down well below 16. He will sign a national ban. You want to understand the contours of this debate that we will be having over the next 9 months, ironically 9 months, between now and November, and the consequences of Democratic Party not succeeding in Biden's reelection. Just consider the fact that he said that part out loud.
We know that there are reports that former President Obama warned President Biden not to underestimate Trump.
Never.
Do you believe that Democrats are underestimating Trump in this moment, his strength potentially in a general election?
I think he's weakness masquerading as strength.
Now, that was very important. And let me tell you why. Because in 2024, you are going to see that the Republicans are going to try to tie everything immigration. They're going to use a couple of a murder and the attack on a couple of cops and a few other mishaps or criminality by undocumented workers to try to build a false narrative. They won't. It's not the narrative that they're going to build of where we really have problems. Massive use of guns in this country with people killing people like flies out here. They're going to use those 4 incidents and make it an immigration issue. Well, you know what? When you want to win elections, you get to something that people can taste. And all women can see their rights being taken away. So you have to hammer at that. And people are immediately seeing their safety with guns, not because of immigration, but guns, Republican policies. They have to hammer that the insecurity in this country is caused by conservative policies, because they are caused by conservative policies, the policies that harm. So somebody asked me today if I am worried about November. The truth of the matter is, November, the only thing that would worry me is Democrats and progressive taking defeat out of victory. What I honestly believe now that I'm seeing some numbers is that this should be a landslide election, not just in the presidency, but throughout the country, both for policy, Congress people, state legislatures, etc. It's going to be a blowout for Democrats if they stay on message and if they go to people's hearts and if they remember, don't forget the middle of the country, because you know what? We can win it all this time around. There is absolutely no doubt that if the trajectory right now, disregard what you see these polling folks say, the trajectory right now is for a Democratic landslide from the counties to the state houses to everywhere. We are on a path to a landslide. And I'll repeat this. I'm going to keep telling you this until I see metrics that change. We are looking for a landslide. All right. Paul Fleming says, in a win for voters, a Wisconsin's court rejects the state legislature request to pause a decision that could prevent thousands of ballots from being unfairly rejected due to witness certificate errors. The pro-voting ruling will remain in effect. Exactly. All right. So, folks, I think we need to stop worrying and we need to start working. Stop worrying and start working. The loud mouth of MAGA has really messed with our pollsters' head. But where we actually see people voting, we see a different result. You take a look at all the women's bills that got passed, whereas we were either behind or up by a few votes, they were all won in landslides. We got a 20-point turnaround in the New York race. We picked up the seat in Pennsylvania. Look, let me just say, everywhere Democrats ran in the off season, they won. They won. That is the actual votes, not the polls. That's the actual votes. Now, there are a few things that could stop the Democratic landslide. The Democratic landslide could be halted by Biden continuing his asinine support of Benjamin Netanyahu. That is the most patently, that is simply malpractice on the Democratic Party for him to continue his support for Benjamin Netanyahu. It is time. Look, I want you to check out a story here. Secretary, let me put it on the screen. Secretary Yellen goes out and she says, Treasury Secretary Yellen calls for unfreezing Russian assets and sending it all to Ukraine. Okay? And then here's a Washington Post snippet. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen on Tuesday offered her strongest support yet for the idea of liquidating roughly $300 billion in frozen Russian central bank assets and using them for Ukraine's long-term reconstruction. It is necessary and urgent for our coalition to find a way to unlock the value of these immobilized assets to support Ukraine's continued resistance and long-term reconstruction, Yellen said in remarks in Sao Paulo, Brazil, where a group of 20 finance ministers and central bank governors are meeting this week. I believe there is a strong international law, economic, and moral case for moving forward. This would be a decisive response to Russia's unprecedented threat to global stability. Okay, I buy it. I buy it. Let's use the Russian assets because Russia is indiscriminately blowing up buildings and blowing up infrastructure in Ukraine. I agree that Russia should pay for that. But there's another thing. There's another country that's doing the same thing. They're blowing up buildings that weren't involved in any war. They're blowing up infrastructure and they're killing people. Where would that be? What country would that be? Oh, it is our ally, Israel. Netanyahu's IDF is blowing the crap out of Gaza and destroying infrastructure and blowing up building after building after building under the claim that they're going after Hamas. But that's not how you fight if you're going after a particular group. You don't just floor everything, right? Oh, wait a minute. We're giving $4 billion to Israel every year, about somewhere around there, right? And they wanted $14 billion more for bombs? Wait a minute. We can give $18 billion to rebuild Gaza right now. Just take it out of the Israeli budget, just like we want to take it out of the Russian budget, right? What y'all think about that? I think that's a good thing. You know, I think it's a good thing. You know, I mean, at least Ukraine fights back with missiles. But Gaza? What you guys think? I'm curious. Do you agree with me? All that destruction in Israel, who pays for it? Well, maybe Israel should pay for it because they feel good blowing things up. Paul Fleming says giant grocery store are price gouging American families, and the Kroger-Albertson merger threatens higher prices for consumers, store closures, and lower wages for workers. By blocking this deal, the Federal Trade Commission is fighting to both protect workers' jobs and lower food prices. I agree wholeheartedly. By saying we can unfreeze and spend is misleading if one doesn't differentiate interest and principle. Very true. But I think what they mean is a totality of whatever they have. Bruce Pollard said, who really gets the money that we give to Israel for U.S. munitions? You nailed something there, Bruce. You know who gets the money? The military-industrial complex. The military-industrial complex. But if they're not building the bombs anymore, we can give that money back to Gaza. But Israel should be paying to rebuild Gaza. All right. Lee Grant says, what if Biden bombs Gaza during Ramadan? Wow, that's an interesting thought, Lee. Yeah, through the holy, the truth, let me just put it this way. Netanyahu doesn't care. Netanyahu does not care if it's Ramadan or anything. Netanyahu is an evil savage. I repeat, anybody who can drop a 2,000-pound bomb on an apartment that you know children, women are living in, and you're going to crack them wide open and kill them, that's not a human being. Netanyahu tries to dehumanize Palestinians so that all the atrocities that he does to the Palestinians doesn't seem that way. But in the process, what Netanyahu has done is he has shown his true character. He has shown that, look, I was speaking to a friend earlier today, and I used some terms that I wouldn't use on the show because it is so graphic of what he really represents. But it should suffice to point it out. Netanyahu is a very, very evil person. And folks, I don't have any more videos for the show. So anybody wants to call in, I'm all ears. I should have invited you to call in way earlier 281-823-7747. I'd love to hear from some of you. 281-823-7747. Somebody call in. 281-823-7747. Bridge says they stated a ceasefire for Ramadan, but you never know with Bibi. Biden said ceasefire should be think weekend. Ceasefire should be not a ceasefire. It should be an end to the damn war. Punto y final, right? And you're right, Eric. Bibi doesn't care at all. Bibi does not care. The man is a very, very evil person. Anybody who can do the damage that he's doing, you can't help but call him evil. Somebody give me a call, 281-823-7747. Give me your thoughts. Give me your closing thoughts for the program. 281-823-7747. Give me your thoughts. Let me know what you think. I'll be more than happy to talk to you live on air. Live on air. That's what we like to do. Until somebody calls, I think it is time for me to do my ask. And how does my ask go? Please support the program. We cannot have this program without you. How can you support the program? All the ways to support the program can be found at politicsdoneright.com/support. And here that is, politicsdoneright.com/support. You can also subscribe to our newsletter. It's a free newsletter, but we ask you to consider becoming a paid subscriber. And being a paid subscriber gives you complete access to all of my books, right? And as you guys know, guess what? Shipping my new book. It's called Tribulations of an Afro-Latino Caribbean Man. Racism didn't stop my smile, hope, or journey forward. Again, let me take this off the screen. Tribulations of an Afro-Latino Caribbean Man. It's a good book, and the stories, I'm telling you, the stories that happened, I pretty much represent a large percentage of our POCs and what professional POCs go through. Professionals or otherwise, but this was rather insidious. I have a chapter in here that I when I was naming the chapter, I wanted to know, what should I name this particular chapter? And the name of the chapter is this. And when I wrote this chapter, I almost cried again. I never cried during this time. I was pissed. But it was called, the chapter is, I went from 3/5 of a man to 2/3. I guess a small improvement in 125 years. That's on page 71. And I'm going to follow what I see Brother Tom Hartman does. I'm going to read a couple of paragraphs of that, the way that one started. It goes like this. While working at NASA, an engineer, Jerry, I had worked with, approached me and asked if I would be interested in designing an oil well logging system with him for a Chinese company. I told him I would be excited to do so. I was shocked that he asked me. I was always thankful to this man for seeing me solely for my competence. That gesture meant so much that I credited him in the first book I wrote, As I See It, Class Warfare, the Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom. A former associate of Jerry, Rolando, not his real name, discovered that a Chinese company in Xi'an wanted to build a system of their own. We needed a design fast. Jerry and I worked on one based on off-the-shelf hardware and could spec, and I created a basic overview design of the software. We worked with Rolando to develop a contract with the Chinese company. We both did this during the late hours as we worked for NASA. And the rest is history. I tell you what, it is so, so important, that chapter, because what you're going to see is after Jerry and I designed the entire software system. Jerry designed the hardware out of off-the-shelf pieces. What happened when it was time for us to now fulfill the project and the contract was funded will shock you. So when I talk about tribulations of an Afro-Latino Caribbean man, that story, I went from 3/5 of a man to 2/3 of a man. I guess it's an improvement. That's a story I think will shock quite a few. Bridge MCP says, Egberto Willis, I wish some people could just once change your minds and not have just 5 to 6 issues constantly coming out of their mouths. Let me tell you, believe it or not, some of them will, some of them won't. But Bridge, our job is what we're doing. We're giving people a place to land. Anybody who wants a place to land, we're here. Anyway, I got to get out of here. It's 4 o'clock. Before I continuing to work, I think I'm gonna spin early today so I don't fall asleep. But please, folks, please consider getting the book. It's at politicsdoneright.com/books, and I'm putting it right in here. politicsdoneright.com/books. It's an easy read. It's well worth it. I promise you. The stories. A lot of times you're gonna go, wow, and you still don't hate, and you're still okay. You're still okay. And to which I say, my stories has happened to many a people. Anyway, I got to get out of here. My name is Egberto Willis. This is Politics Done Right. And you guys know how I end this baby. I am what? Out.
We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead, number 1, subscribe to our channel, and number 2, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.